your number one source for
About 12 to 13 pounds, wearing a green collar. Sydney is very friendly, but she is a shy cat. Sydney was lost in the 800 East block of 400 South. If you've seen Sydney, call 219-380-8137. That's 219-380-8137. And if you find a lost pet or your pet runs off and you want to report that pet for Pet Patrol, call 219-362-6144. Pet Patrol is absolutely free. That number for Pet Patrol, again, 219-362-6144 for Pet Patrol here on 96.7 The Eagle.
From HometownNewsNow.com, this is Update News on 96.7 The Eagle. Welcome to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle, LaPorte County's original social media. Sound Off is a public interest forum that encourages your voice to be heard on the topics and issues impacting our local communities. For the next 30 minutes, we invite you to be part of the conversation by calling 219-362-0522. And you can now text your questions to the Liquor Vault on-air line or by email to soundoff@967theeagle.com. This is a topic-based program, and we ask that you keep your comments brief, concise, and related to the topic being discussed. The views expressed on Sound Off are those of the hosts or callers and do not represent the opinion of 96.7 The Eagle, Spoon River Media LLC, or the sponsors. The Liquor Vault on-air line is now open for your calls or texts at 219-362-0522. This is Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Welcome, friends. Glad to have you today on the show. I'm going to read you something real quick. I am grateful to every Ukrainian who stays to defend our cities, even in the encirclement, our freedom. But I also know that there are people who really need to get out who cannot stay. And we heard the promise that there would be humanitarian corridors, but there are no humanitarian corridors. Instead of humanitarian corridors, they can only make bloody ones. A family was killed in Irpin today, a man, a woman, and 2 children right on the road. As in the shooting club, when they were just trying to get out of town to escape, the whole family. How many such families have died in Ukraine? We will not forgive. We will not forget. We will punish everyone who committed atrocities in this war on our land. We will find everyone which shot at our cities, our people, which bombed our land, which launched rockets, which gave the order and pressed start. There will be no quiet place on this earth for you except for the grave. And that is a recent speech given by the president of Ukraine about what is happening right now on the ground in Eastern Europe. Today we're going to talk about the Ukraine-Russia conflict. As you probably know, because you've been watching the news, because our listeners are plugged in, Russia has invaded Ukraine, and there's a lot of history there. There's a lot of stuff going on, but I want to know what you think about it. How are you processing it? What's your thoughts on it? Again, it's one of those issues that's super complicated, I understand, but what do you think should happen in the Russian-Ukrainian conflict? How do you think America should get involved? Should America get more involved? Should we be less involved? Should we stay on the sidelines? Should we send more troops to neighboring countries? We've got troops in my wife's country, Romania, right now. We've got them, I think, in Poland right now. Should they send weapons? Do you think that, they should do a no-fly zone? The Ukrainian President Zelensky is asking for a no-fly zone, but America has essentially said that's not a good idea. It would essentially exasperate the issue even more. President Putin of Russia might even take that as a sign of even more conflict. And there's some concern that, again, he might not be in his right mind. I think a lot of people thought that there might be a conflict in Ukraine, but it wouldn't go as far as Kiev. But it is. It's going further. And it seems as if Putin might not want to stop until he has the whole country now. So we're getting your opinions on this. What do you think about it? How are you processing it? 219-362-0522. The Liquor Vault on-air line number is 219-362-0522. You're welcome to call me. You can email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com. Any new things that are happening. I mean, it just, on Twitter, it just seems like every time I refresh it, there's something new happening. You're welcome to comment on our Facebook live feed. Go to Hometown News Now or 96.7 The Eagles Facebook page, and you can always listen to the show when we're live on there. Hey, I'm just glad to have you today. Welcome to Sound Off. Let's get to our first caller. Hey, welcome to the show. Glad to have you. What's on your mind? What are you thinking about this Ukraine-Russia conflict?
Well, as someone who's read an awful lot of history on World War II in that part of the country, this sounds eerily similar to Hitler when he took the Sudetenland, the Rhineland, and Czechoslovakia by force. The Ukrainians and the Russians have had a long history of hatred towards each other, going back to when Stalin, it was called the Holderum. He starved the farmers down there, and if they were caught keeping food from the government, they were executed on the spot. So, sadly, I do believe that we eventually are going to be involved in this. And so with China, when China decides to take the Taiwan island back because of the weakness in our White House. So it's a very sad, hard topic to discuss, but it's a sign myself. I believe we've got a weakness in the White House. They're not sure what they want to do. Anything we do will be considered an aggressive act by Putin. And he has said he wants to restore the former Soviet Union. And that also includes Estonia, Latvia, and Lithuania, which are NATO nations. And we will have no choice under Article 5 to defend them. And I believe that eventually this will create another world war, at least in Europe, in Asia. But sadly nowadays we also have nuclear warheads that can reach our own nation.
Yeah.
So it's
a mess all around, isn't it? It's a mess all around. Yes, it is.
And it's the best thing that he can do right now, Biden, if he wants to really impose hardcore sanctions against the Soviet Union, is to stop all the exports of our food and grain. We're going to eventually need that here. They're dwindling, and to sell food to our enemies, I can't believe that the American people would have stood for that if FDR had supplied food to Hitler and Mussolini and Hirohito during the last war. So it's a sad time, but people should pay attention to what's going on in the news and watch, and hopefully they'll resolve it, but I doubt if they will. Thank you.
Thanks so much for calling. I appreciate it. Hey, we're talking about the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. I did want to tell you, on Thursday at 5:30 down at Plaza 618, there's a prayer session. If you want to join from 5:30 to 6, a bunch of churches and different people are coming together just to pray for peace. Again, lots of stuff happening in this world, and sometimes you feel like you can't do anything other than get on a microphone and talk on a radio show. But we can, think and pray for those who are suffering right now. Because in any conflict, you're going to have a lot of innocent people on both sides that are going to suffer from leaders that want to do harm. So let's get to another caller. Oh, no caller now. Oh, sorry, you're off. If you want to call back, you're welcome, 219-362-0522. I'd love to hear from you. You can also email us at soundoff@967theeagle.com. Again, that number is 219-362-0522. I looked into a little bit of how our leaders locally have responded, or at least the ones that we've elected. Here's a statement from U.S. Representative Jackie Walorski, who is probably half of our listeners, United States representative in Indiana's 2nd District. It says Vladimir Putin was wrong to invade the sovereign nation of Ukraine. of Ukraine, and America should follow warnings and strong sanctions. Appeasement is not an option. Any weakness shown now will long embolden our adversaries in Russia and across the world. Putin should never doubt that America stands with the freedom-loving people of Ukraine. From enabling Nord Stream 2 after canceling the Keystone Pipeline to delaying key economic sanctions on Russia, the Biden administration has made countless missteps that have endangered our national security and Americans' prosperity. I urge President Biden to immediately end his devastating war on American-made energy, restore our nation's energy dependence, and strengthen our preparedness to counter 21st century threats. All right, here's for the rest of us, Frank Mrvan, probably Mrvan is your representative, U.S. representative in Indiana's 1st District. He issued this statement: I strongly condemn Russia's attack on Ukraine, an action which violates international law, threatens international security, and requires our nation to lead a determined multilateral response to deter Russia from continuing down this path of violence and devastation. Russia's violation of the core principles that have maintained world peace in Europe since the end of World War II must be a shared responsibility and met with definitive actions taken by NATO and its allies. Our nation must remain committed to its role within NATO and extend every diplomatic, economic, and military resource available to allow Ukraine to defend its sovereignty. The world must send the clear message that democracies will defend sovereign nations attacked by autocratic regimes that callously violate every standard of civilized conduct. So those are the responses from our United States representatives that you have elected. Just wanted to share that with you if you're not reading their news releases like I do, their press releases that they put out. So we're talking about the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. As you know, maybe 11, 12 days ago, Russia invaded a sovereign nation, Ukraine. And initially there was this thought that maybe they're taking back an area of Ukraine that, has like half of its speakers are Russian speaking. Half of them maybe want to be Russian. There's a lot of debate going on there. Ukraine says it's not true. Russia says it's true. I don't know fully. Obviously, there's a long history of Ukraine and Russia being a former Soviet Union country, and so there's lots of layers, as our first caller called it. But again, Ukraine's a sovereign nation, and a sovereign nation was invaded by Russia. So we're talking about what you think should happen. How are you processing it? I'd love to hear from you today. 219-362-0522. Give me a call. Let's talk. All right, let's get to our next caller. Hey, thanks so much for calling. I appreciate it. What's your thoughts on this? How are you processing the Ukrainian-Russian invasion?
I really respect the Ukrainian people for fighting and standing behind their president. I wish everyone here would stand behind our president, good or bad or whatever they think. Unless you're in his shoes at every meeting making those decisions, no one should be judgmental. We should be standing behind our president. Might not be the one you wanted, but he's still our president. I wish our people acted the same way the Ukrainian people did. I'm sure there were a lot of those Ukrainian people that didn't approve of him because of his background. He was a comedian before and an actor and everything. A lot of them probably didn't have any faith in him. But look, he's proved himself, and they stand behind him 100% no matter what. I just wish all these people, Jackie Walorski and anybody else, would quit using every opportunity to take a swipe at our president. Stand behind him. Support him. Because I don't want that job. I don't know of too many people that do. So I just want people to come together.
Yeah.
Here. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks so much. It is interesting to see all the Ukrainian people come together, and I've watched a couple news specials on it, and it's there was one Ukrainian older man, he's 75 years old, and he said, for the first time in my life, he was making Molotov cocktails. He said, I'm becoming a bartender. And he said, I'm going to welcome our invaders with drinks. And so, it was interesting to see, because you see all of these different people, different, generations, different backgrounds coming together and saying, listen, we might lose this war, but we're going to lose this war together. But we're gonna fight together on these kind of things. You have to wonder when you see these things, could that happen in America? In that, could we ever come together like that? I mean, we are divided in radical ways, and unfortunately, so many of our leaders want to continue to divide us instead of figure out ways to unite us. So let's get to one more caller, and then we'll take a break. Hey, thanks so much for calling and listening to the show. I appreciate you. What's your thoughts on the Ukrainian-Russian invasion?
I think it's a very tragic event in our lifetime. There's been a few things stand out with me on this. One news snippet I saw, there was 4 or 5 doctors literally running with a gurney with a little body on it. A little 6-year-old girl was with her mother in a grocery store when the grocery store was shelled by the Russian troops. Sadly, that little girl didn't survive. Another very young couple were just married. And, you know, you think in terms of young newlyweds looking forward to starting life together. Instead, they're wearing military-type garb and carrying automatic weapons, just trying to defend their homeland. Now, I don't know what to say with this. I mean, am I surprised by it? No. Putin has been, you know, very embittered ever since the dissolution of the USSR. So I'm not surprised, and with Ukraine possibly wanting to become a part of NATO, I think that's really what sparked it with him. I don't know for sure, but I mean, that's my speculation on it. But the previous caller, the lady, I understand what she's saying too. I mean, we are one nation, and that's the way we should be. We should be backing our president as well. I mean, good, bad, or indifferent. He is the elected leader of our nation at this time, and I don't know.
Yeah.
Hey, tell Dennis to get off that golf.
You know, it's a power trip. It's a power trip for him. But hey, thanks so much for calling. And you know, I seen a lot of those things that you saw on the news with people getting married and things like that. And what a world to enter a family into and things like that. But I appreciate your call. We're going to take a break. If you've got a thought on what's happening in Ukraine and Russia, obviously it's been 11 or 12 days now that the Russian nation has invaded Ukraine, a sovereign nation. And we're talking about that today, how you're processing it, what you think should happen, how America should get involved or should we not get involved. You know, what are your thoughts on it? So if you've got a thought, Liquor Vault on the other line is 219-362-0522. Or you can email me at soundoff@967theeagle.com or just comment on our Facebook live streams. We'd love to hear from you there, too. We're going to take a real quick break and be right back here on 96.7 The Eagle.
Ben Conowitz here, LaPorte Seamless Gutter, 219-362-9972. You know, fall is here, and that means leaves and debris for your gutter system. We've got 3 separate types of gutter guard for your home. Leaves and debris come in all shapes and sizes. We don't need a one-size-fits-all for your gutter. Give us a call today for a free estimate at 219-362-9972, or you can visit us on the web, www.lpseamless.com.
Vote Fagan 2022. Who is Sean Fagan? He's a lawyer. He's a Republican. Sean Fagan, running for LaPorte County Prosecutor 2022. Sean Fagan knows that LaPorte County is a great place to live, and he wants to keep it that way. Sean Fagan for LaPorte County Prosecutor 2022. Be safe. Be strong. Let's work together. Vote Sean Fagan 2022. This message paid for by Fagan for Prosecutor.
OTEC Corporation at 4744 East Oak Knoll Road in Rolling Prairie is growing and will be hosting open interviews Monday, March 7th, Wednesday, March 9th, and Thursday, March 10th. These open interviews will take place from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m. They are currently looking to fill production and maintenance positions. Employees will be eligible for benefits following 30 days of employment. Stop by for an application or come to one of their open interviews. OTEC Corporation, 4744 East Oak Knoll Road in Rolling Prairie.
The once-a-month radio auction returns Saturday, March 19th, following your 8 a.m. news. Debbie and Dennis Sedell will once again be your auctioneer radio host with great certificates for you to bid on from Pink Sheep Children's Boutique, Nowhere Bar and Grill, K-Tool and Fire, The Hot Spot Cafe, Happy Cars Detailing and Auto Repair, A Touch of OCD, JJ Side Out Bar and Grill, and more. The next once-a-month radio auction is Saturday, March 19th, following your 8 a.m. news on 96.7 The Eagle.
Your opinion matters. We invite you to share it by calling or texting the Liquor Ball on-air line at 362-0522. That's 362-0522. Now, back to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Welcome back to welcome back to Sound Off today. I almost said Facebook. You're not on Facebook. Maybe some of you are, but welcome back to Sound Off. Glad to have you with us today. We're talking about the Ukrainian-Russian conflict. Russia has invaded Ukraine, and we're talking about what to do there. This is a near and dear topic to my heart, obviously, as I've shared with you in previous episodes. My wife is Romanian. Her family is in Romania, and it's our birthday actually today. So happy birthday to my wife. But we've been in contact with them. There's obviously fear for all of those nations that are close to Russia that Ukraine's not going to be the last place they stop. And so, there's a lot of fear in that Eastern European area. Romania and Ukraine and Turkey share a sea, the Black Sea, with Russia. And so there's lots of just, turmoil, lots of worry, lots of anxiety about what somebody like a dictator like Vladimir Putin could do. So we're getting your opinion on it, 219-362-0522, talking about what you think. Let's get to another caller. Hey, I appreciate you listening to the show. Thanks so much for calling. What's your thoughts on the Ukrainian-Russian conflict?
Well, first of all, we got to be all united. These people coming out with all different insane thoughts and statements. They mentioned Pelosi. Pelosi, when Biden got in this time, 3 months after he was in, she wanted to impeach him. She's just mad because she can't go on Air Force One with Trump like she used to do. And something's got to be done. When they start acting like that, we don't need them kind of people in the market. They need to go ahead and stay back and start doing some studying. Our country is in big trouble right now, all through everything, inflation and whatever. You ain't going to get accomplished nothing if you keep ridiculing the leaders. Heck, I wouldn't want to be the president. Have everybody go ahead and knock on me every moment of the day. That's not the right way to solve things. Thank you.
Hey, thanks so much for calling. Let's get to another caller. Hey, thanks so much for calling today's Sound Off. We're talking about Ukraine, Russia. What's your thoughts on that? Go ahead.
Nate, you're a good man. Hey, over the weekend, we're checking making sure the musket's fired. As my mother's 90 years old, like I tell her, I said, Mom, keep the powder dry and the musket ready. And so she's ready. She was born and raised in the World War II era when the same incident took place, and there were many, many countries involved at that time. So she's keeping her powder dry and the musket loaded, and she's in good shape. Anything that's communist coming to the front door, well, we'll clean the mess up. Let's put it that way. We can't stop prophecy from the Holy Bible. We're not going to stop that. That's in God's hands, our Creator, the great Lord God Almighty, and Jesus Christ, His only Son, and the Holy Spirit. Now, as we're playing this out, and you lay the Bible out, it's all heading to Israel. You've got who's in charge right now is our former president, Barack Obama. That's who's in charge. That's who's running the show here. So they've got to get the nuclear weapons over to Iran. Iran has no problem firing those on Israel. They call us Big Satan. They call Israel Little Satan. So this is just opening up avenues to get over to Israel and the United States. And they're coming. Whether you're ready or not, they're coming. And China's making their move, like the gentleman said earlier. We can only stand behind those that stand for principle. Back in the Declaration of Independence, 1/3 stood for a new country. 30% stood for the existing British, and 1/3 stood on the sidelines and did nothing. They just continued on with their life. Everybody knew they were coming. If you'd listened to Putin for 3-4 years, he said the black bear is going to rise up and he's going to take control like they did in the past. This guy's not going to stop. Between him, China, and Iran and Brazil kicking in their policy now, we're in trouble. Everybody's in trouble. So
All right, thanks so much for calling. I appreciate your thoughts on this. We're talking about Ukraine, Russia, and what you think. You're welcome to call us at the Liquor Vault on air line at 219-362-0522. Let's get to one more caller. Hey, thanks so much for calling. I appreciate you waiting. Thanks for listening to the show. What are your thoughts on the Russian invasion of Ukraine?
Well, first of all, there's probably a lot of people that are reluctant to call in after all the threats that Biden has made against people saying the wrong thing or having the wrong opinion. So anyway, we're talking about it. Leadership knew that there were problems brewing over there for a while. I don't know that there have been any major equipment moves or what have you in the last 12 months. So all of a sudden now we're just jumping through our butts trying to get all this together to counter the invasion. And it's too late. I mean, not saying they shouldn't be doing what they're doing, but it's a bit too late. But that's it. That's all I got to say.
Hey, thanks so much for calling. I appreciate it. We've got a couple more minutes on the show. We're going to get to another break here in a second, but I want to read some comments here from our email line. Those of you that are emailing us, just the thing to remember, Kyiv is a very important place in Russian history, both culturally and religiously. It was in Kyiv where the Rus accepted the Eastern Orthodox religion, and so the modern-day Russians hold strongly to Kyiv. That is true. Obviously, Ukraine and Russia have a very close cultural and religious tie. Again, my wife's in Romania. All of that world over there is Orthodox. And so there are certainly strong cultural ties there, and religious ties. Here's another one. The United States has failed to live up to our 1994 treaty obligations for Ukraine. We promised to protect them and for them to give up their nuclear weapons. We, at the minimum, should have built them a decent military so they could defend themselves, including some fighter jets, even our obsolete tanks and anti-ship weapons. You know, I will say, I don't know what we promised in 1994. I was just a young buck then. I was a kid. But I will say, kudos to their military, because they are fighting Russia, who, for my whole lifetime, I've heard has a mighty military, and Ukraine's giving them all they can. I don't know how long they can do that, but they are, and they're fighting, respectively and doing what they can there. So we're talking about Ukraine, Russia. We've got some more minutes on the show. If you've got an opinion on this, I'd love to hear from you. More than 1.7 million people have now fled Ukraine in the days since Russia launched its invasion. What do you think should happen in the Russian-Ukraine conflict? Should America get more involved? Should they send troops? Should they send more weapons? What are your thoughts? We're talking about it today on Sound Off. Let's hear that one more caller before we get to break. Hey, thanks so much for waiting. Thanks for listening to the show. What's your thoughts on the Ukrainian-Russian conflict?
I understand it's not good, Russia invading Ukraine, but my question is why the United States get more involved in this than they got involved when China released their virus, killing people here.
Thanks so much for calling. I appreciate it. So, it has been a big thing for a lot of people online, essentially saying, why do we pick and choose conflicts, right? There are other nations invading other nations. America has obviously been involved with some controversial conflicts in the Middle East where we invaded Iraq and things like that. There have been African nations that have invaded other nations, and we've not really gotten involved. And it's a conversation that should happen. However, I do want to say too, I think the conversation needs to happen, but also it doesn't negate the things that are also happening right now. So I think we have to have the ability to have that conversation. Why do we pick and choose different conflicts? But also, what are you going to do with Ukraine and Russia? I mean, because you can't just have that conversation about why don't we do this while ignoring the thing that's actually happening. So we're talking about Ukraine and Russia and what you think about it. 219-362-0522 or sound off at 967theeagle.com. We're going to take our final break of the day. Keep listening to 96.7 The Eagle.
Car problems often strike at the absolute worst times, but you can rest well knowing that Cannon's Automotive Service is here for you and dedicated to get you back on the road with prompt, efficient, same-day service. The same Cannon's commitment that LaPorte has trusted for over 50 years. Cannon's Automotive Service, now with 2 locations, 710 Tyler Street and 909 Boyd Boulevard.
We're Cannon's Automotive. We fix everything.
Here's another job opportunity from HometownNewsNow.com.
The LaPorte City Fire Department is accepting applications for firefighter employment with salary starting at $50,000 per year. Must be between 21 and 36 years of age and a high school graduate. Apply at the city website or in person at Fire Station Number 1, 809 West 18th Street. Applications must be postmarked by April 8th, so don't wait. Browse to thecityoflaporte.com/department/fire.
This has been a Jobs Spotlight Extra. Look under Hot Topics at HometownNewsNow.com for job details.
Come into Bell Tire today. You'll get the lowest tire price, period. Get up to $200 off a set of 4 Goodyear tires. You'll also get a guy who will give you free lifetime flat repairs, tire rotations, and alignment checks. Get up to $200 off a set of 4 Goodyear tires. Plus more free services and more out of your tires and more for your money. It's how we make the lowest tire price feel even lower at Bell Tire. See store and belltire.com for details and offer expiration.
Hey, who's hungry? Because I've got a deal for you. Dennis Siddell here to introduce you something new to the Morning Mayhem. Every weekday at 6:55, it's Denny's Diner. Yep, Joe and I will cook up some trivia questions, and if you have the correct answer, you'll be the winner of a $20 gift card from either JJ's Sideout Bar and Grill, the Burger Bar and Grill, JJ's Pizza Shack, Wanna Pizza, or Nowhere Bar and Grill. So join us weekdays for Denny's Diner at 6:55 on the Morning Mayhem for your chance to win here on 96.7 The Eagle.
Michiana weather.
Chance for snow becoming mixed precipitation this afternoon. Otherwise, cloudy skies. High of 35. Northwesterly winds 10 to 20 miles per hour. 23 tonight. Chance of snow. From the Weather Center at HometownNewsNow.com. Right now, 33.
We're waiting to hear from you. Dial or text 362-0522 and let us know what you think. That's 362-0522. Back to Sound Off on 96.7 The Eagle.
Welcome back, friends, to our final segment of Sound Off today. I'm glad to have you. Thanks so much for listening to today's show. Again, it's so important to have these conversations together as a community. Yes, none of us are in that part of the world with Ukraine and Russia. Some of us don't even know any Russians or Ukrainians, but it certainly impacts us. It impacts our economy. We're in a more global economy. What happens in one major country certainly often impacts another country. But also, there are people suffering, and we don't want to turn a blind eye to that. And so we're talking about that today. What do you think about the Ukrainian-Russian conflict? If you've got an opinion on that, we've got the Liquor Vault on-air line at 219-362-0522. We've got about 10 minutes left on the show. I'd love to hear from you today. 219-362-0522. Let's go. Let's get to another caller. Hey, thanks so much for listening to today's show. What's your thoughts on what's happening in Ukraine and Russia?
Hello, Nate.
Hey, yeah, that's you, buddy.
Yeah. I believe if we had our former president back, I think Putin would still be thinking about what he's doing, and he wouldn't have activated it yet. I think he'd still be pondering if it would be a good idea. That's just my thought on it. When he saw how easy it was for us to get out of Afghanistan, he said, in my opinion, he looked and said, these people are weak, and there's a good reason why I should just start doing what I want to do now. So that's my belief that he'd still be thinking about it if the former president would be back. Thank you.
Right, thanks so much. We're getting your opinions. Got a couple more minutes left. If you'd like to call in, the Liquor Vault on-air line is 219-362-0522. You're welcome to call me or email me, and I'd love to read your comments here if you've got, or let us know in the comments on our Facebook live stream. If you're not listening to Facebook Live, or if you're not on a radio with a dial, you've got a couple different options. You can listen on Facebook Live during Sound Off. You can always listen to the podcast. Go to HometownNewsNow.com and listen there, or just on your phone if you got an iPhone or an Android, just go to wherever you get your podcast from, and you can always catch up there. I'd love to hear from you, or let you know. Or again, we'd love to have you hear the show on a different day or whatever you can to listen to it. You can also listen through our mobile app, the 96.7 The Eagle mobile app. So whatever you can, however you can listen, we'd love to have you. Let's get to another caller. Hey, I appreciate you listening to the show. Thanks so much for calling. What's your thoughts on the Ukraine-Russian conflict?
Personally, have my brother's wife, her mother and father live in Kiev.
So to anybody out there who thinks, I've actually heard people say, how do you know there's even a war going on? Yeah, it's going on, okay? And I think it's crazy because it's like the earth is flat. Okay, great. We can all believe that if we want. But the thing is, it's like I've literally heard people, well, how do you know there's even a war? What I will tell people is really, we hear, Russia's bad, Ukraine's good, all this stuff. But there is some side to the fact that, for 4 or 5 years now, well, I mean, let's say, to be honest, for 4 years, now it's been 5. We heard Trump had colluded with Russia and all this stuff. No evidence, still no evidence, still nothing. They just proved the dossier was a lie and it was all made up. So it is good to be skeptical on what you believe and who might be the bad guy, because, I mean, I've got some friends that are special forces, and they've heard some rumors about a Ukrainian special ops unit or something being in Russia and blowing something up over there, and that's what pissed Putin off, because people who are advisors, I used to serve under McMaster's. I know a lot of guys that are in the military and stuff, and these guys are like, look, it's so weird that this guy would even attack these people because he gains nothing from it. There is no gain. He actually had a pretty good relationship. So there's some issues where people are kind of wondering with Burisma, and, there's a lot of, if you look into this, there's a lot of congressional people who have business investments and property in Ukraine. So who knows? There's always some Rothschilds involved in something. I mean, World War II with the Germans, there was a lot of Henry Ford was making cars for the Germans and the U.S. soldiers. So I'm like, you never know where people have these interests. I'm just saying, a lot of times it seems like super.
Yeah, it is. The caller makes a good point in that it is hard to find all of the information and put it all together. We get fed, especially a lot of times with pundits and different news shows. Oftentimes, what happens is the things that we're listening to, it always makes it seem easier than it is. And as other callers have mentioned today, you don't know what's going on sometimes behind the scenes. You don't know what's happening, and what leaders, different leaders in the world know that we don't. Why they're deciding to do that, because sometimes they can't share it publicly. These kind of things, and I think it's important to always remember we only have a glimpse of what's happening. But we do know that, as again the caller said, there is a conflict happening, right? I mean, anybody that denies that is denying, I think, reality. I don't know how to talk to you about something that's clearly happening, and people are suffering, and so I don't know always what to do in geopolitical conflicts. Obviously, I'm not a geopolitical expert. I try to inform myself and read books and these kind of things, but I'm still ignorant of a lot of it. I just know that innocent people are suffering, and I hope that the leaders of this country and the leaders of the world can come together to find a place and a part where innocent people aren't suffering anymore, and that people can live and get the same privileges and freedoms that you and I have to raise a family and to work and to do good for your community, because that's what it's all about, and I hope that they can do that. I did read, again, the U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield, was asked recently about the no-fly zone that Ukraine wants, and again, one of these things, I think what's really interesting for this is, I think in theory, maybe the United States might even be for this, but they know that doing this would potentially set off other things in motion that they're hesitant to do. And so it's not just about saying, yes, it's a no-fly zone. If you say yes to a no-fly zone, then you have to protect the no-fly zone. Then you have to, if you do that, then it escalates things with Russia, and we're not sure we want to do that. But she says President Biden has been very, very clear that American troops will not be put on the ground or in the air to escalate this war and make this an American war against the Russians. But we've also been very clear that we will support Ukraine in every other way possible. So we'll keep on following it, and we'll keep on figuring out what's going on there. One of the things, again, you could do if you'd like to, you're welcome to join a bunch of churches that are meeting at Plaza 618, the plaza in downtown LaPorte, on Thursday night at 5:30 to 6. to pray for peace in Russia and Ukraine. There are certainly people that have deeper connections there as well, and you're welcome to come and share in that. And it's not a political or partisan thing. It's just people wanting to get together to pray for peace in that part of the world. So you're welcome to come, 5:30 to 6, Plaza 618. Hey, on Friday, we're going to have, I've reached out to both of the county political leaders, and we're going to have them on the show. First, Dr. Vijay Cora of the LaPorte County Democratic Party will be on, and we're working on getting a time for Alan Stevens, hopefully in the next week or two. He had a conflict in one of our dates, but we're going to get him on the show. I want to talk to Alan as well. And they're going to talk about some of their candidates, these kind of things that are happening. And then we've got the candidates coming on, the primary candidates, and we're going to introduce you to the candidates who you can potentially vote for in May. Lots of things happening there. We're going to get as many as we can on the show. We're talking about doing some shows as well with multiple candidates. So if we've got 2 or 3 candidates running for one spot, I'd love to have them all on the show and do not a debate necessarily, but a conversation. And maybe they could talk a little bit about what they agree and disagree on. So you have a chance to talk and listen to them speak as well. We're trying to do everything we can to get you informed and help introduce you to the people that you can vote for. Go to hometownnewsnow.com, find our election HQ. We've got a lot of candidate information on there, just a ton of candidate information. We ask candidates to tell us their platform, give us 3 reasons why people should vote for you. What's your website? What's your education? These kind of things. hometownnewsnow.com. We're putting all that together for you to make you a more informed voter. Hey, I appreciate you listening to the show. We'll be back on Friday for another show. Be good to yourself, be good to others, and keep listening to 96.7 The Eagle.